Ndogara chigaro chamatende uchatendeka, watendeka. Zuva raenda. Ndogara chigaro chamatende uchatendeka, watendeka. Ndogara chigaro chamatende uchatendeka, watendeka. Zuva raenda. Ndogara chigaro chamatende uchatendeka. Zuva raenda, yenda, ye. Oh, zuva yenda, yenda, ye. Yenda, 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 msapa. Zuva raenda, maiwe, zuva raenda. Ndogara chigaro chamatende uchatendeka, watendeka. Togozeni, Togozeni Royals, Hotep, Black Nation. Please tap the screen. Just tap the screen. Let's get as many people on here. Tapelo, guy. Togozeni family. How is everyone doing? Type really quickly in the comments where you're all tuning in from. Let's do a quick check-in. Tapelo, you're supposed to be sleeping. I know you're in South Africa. Why are you awake at this time? Togozeni. Tapelo says, Kiteng, okay? Oh, what do I say? Kiaphila. You know, people laugh at me because I'm learning Sesotho, and my problem is that because I speak Sizulu and I speak other languages, I will start a sentence in Sesotho, and when I can't find a Sotho word to put in, I will quietly slip in a Zulu word and hope for the best. Togozeni. Oh, waphila. Hayi kuyaliboga. You see? Don't laugh at my accent, because that's another thing that amuses people when I try to speak Sesotho. But you know me, as long as you understand me, it doesn't matter how it comes out. The idea is to communicate. So, no, yaliboha. So let me greet properly and then we can get started on our topic. Thokozeni, Lesedihanya, Chamakwini, Thobela, Ndaweshewe, Emakosini, Kwaziwai, Nangadev, Habarigani, Kedu, and so on as they increase. Ninjani, how is everybody doing? Hotep Royals. So we are doing part 6 of our series on children. And you know, with these series that I come on here, just when I think we're done, I get told, no, you're not done. There's another thing you haven't spoken about. So here I am today, and today what we want to talk about is we want to talk about the effects of conflict in a family on children. I'm talking here about the effects of conflict, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and physical abuse of one partner to another, and how that affects children. So let me paint a picture for you of what it looks like, just in case you've forgotten what it was like to be a child. This may be triggering for some, but I always say where our triggers lie is what we need to be looking at and healing. Because in order for us to become better parents or better guardians, we need to deal with our own inner child wounds. So if this is triggering, good, because it gives you an indication of where you need to focus your own personal healing on. For all of these series I've done, there seems to be a lot of triggering among the adults. So I'm doing my job. Because that's precisely what it's supposed to do. You cannot heal what you don't acknowledge within yourself. And if you don't heal what you don't acknowledge within yourself, you are sure going to perpetuate it, whether it is conscious or unconscious. And a lot of times you're unconscious that you're actually perpetuating the same experiences, negative experiences you had in your childhood. You're perpetrating, you become a perpetrator. So as long as you stay a victim, meaning you have not done your healing work, you become a perpetrator. It's a tough one, right? So today what we'll be looking at is, so imagine that you are a 3 or even a 2-year-old. Let's take it right back to those formative years. You are 2 or 3 years old. Imagine your size, right? You're an itty bitty little person, right? You are in this home and 2 adults are talking and it starts to escalate. Remember that the sound of adult voices to children is not the same as the sound of adult voices to adults. So now this thing is escalating. There is a lot of screaming and shouting. Imagine what that sounds like to a 2 or 3-year-old. Let's take it further. Imagine what it looks like for a 3-year-old when one partner is in the face of another and is screaming. Imagine what a male voice screaming or shouting sounds like to a 2 or 3-year-old. Imagine yet again when a partner is now slapping or kicking or pushing another. What does that look like for a 3-year-old? Many adults are very averse to viewing physical violence. I'm one of those. I do not like to be in spaces where adults are, number one, raising their voices, where it becomes really aggressive and tense. It actually makes me feel sick. Can you imagine what that does to a 2 or 3-year-old? So here you are busy throwing punches, you are busy hurling insults. The child may not understand the insults, but it is the vibration of what is coming out of your mouth that impacts that child right there in the solar plexus. What does that result in? The sounds of your voices screaming and shouting at one another literally sound like bombs exploding in the ears of a 2 or 3-year-old. This is why children who find themselves in situations where there is physical violence of that nature and sort of emotional or verbal violence of that nature suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, most of the time when these things are happening, the adults engaged in this actually forget that there are children in the room. These children can start to cry, and their cries go unnoticed because the two adults are caught up in the maelstrom and the confusion and the chaos of their fighting. They actually forget that they are wounding little souls right there. They are rewriting those children's DNA, because your impact, the impact of that violence goes and sits right in the DNA. Many people talk about, oh, but DNA is permanent, DNA doesn't change. There is such a thing called epigenetics, where there's certain rearrangement around the DNA that is caused by environmental factors. This is where we talk about nature versus nurture. What environment were you nurtured or raised in has an impact on how your DNA ultimately will express itself as you grow. And that genetic memory sits in the epigenetics, in those peripheral areas of your DNA that have the ability to store those kind of memories. So these children suffer from PTSD. Continued exposure to such violence in young children is really damaging. How does it show itself, you ask? Say the children are now 6, 7, 8 years old, 9, 10, up to 12. They wet their beds. They are bedwetting. That is a sign of severe trauma, is when you have a child who has been potty trained, when you have a child who under normal circumstances is able to control their bladder, this child starts wetting their bed at night. Some children even end up pooping in bed. The unfortunate thing is, said parents won't see that as a sign of distress, but will see it as something that this child needs to be punished for. They don't actually see that this child's nervous system is messed up, and this is why they are messing themselves in the bed. So number 1 is bedwetting. Number 2, cruelty to animals. A lot of these children are cruel to small animals. Many of us have seen this, particularly in what I call the concentration camps or the townships. They see a stray cat, they see a puppy, and they will torture it. They will beat it, they will tear it apart. They see a small bird, rather than empathy or compassion or that protective nature that we have to things that are smaller than us, these children seem to take a great pleasure in wounding and hearing this creature scream and cry and whimper and so on. That is another sign of children who have been traumatized. The third sign is uncontrolled outbursts of anger. A lot of the time they are suppressing a lot of emotions that they cannot express in front of their parents. So these outbursts can either happen on the playground at school. These outbursts can happen amongst themselves as siblings, where they develop a certain cruelty towards one another, especially if they are older ones to the younger ones. They pinch them without somebody looking. They bite. They shove them, they hit them. They are simply replicating the behavior they have seen, and they are displaying emotions that they don't have words to express. They are hurt, they are traumatized. So that's the third. The fourth one is these children can develop tics. Some of them start nail biting to the point where they bite their nails until they are right at the nail bed. Some of them, start a certain kind of blinking, which is a nervous tic. Some of them hurt themselves. How do I mean by hurt themselves? They will pinch themselves. So you find that this child has a lot of little scars on their body because they pinch themselves. Some even do it in their sleep, where in their sleep they're pinching themselves. And it's a nervous tic because the nervous system is all messed up. As they grow older, the level of violence increases just in the same, because remember, this is a trauma that sits in their bodies that has not been dealt with. Some of them develop obsessive compulsive behaviors. What are those? It can be hand washing. Just washing their hands, always washing their hands, always washing their hands. Some may become obsessive compulsive cleaners and picker-upper of things, where you find a small child is kneeling on a carpet and is literally looking for black pieces of lint or dirt, and they are meticulously picking them up. All those are signs of trauma. A lot of parents miss on these signs of trauma, because what these children need is they actually need trauma therapy. If they are so young that they are not able to express themselves in terms of what is really going on with them, these are children who require professional help. Now, in our communities, a lot of professional help doesn't exist, and so there is the catch, because in a lot of communities where this is happening, and it's happening in all sorts of communities, but predominantly in these communities of highly stressed parents, which is literally where it's like a breeding ground for violence between couples, because there's high levels of stress. And this high level of stress spills out into emotional, physical abuse, and these children are caught in the crossfire. Remember, when two elephants fight, it is always the grass that suffers. The adults are the elephants and the children are the grass, poor grass, that suffers. And nobody really cares about the grass beneath the elephant's feet, right? Like I said, most of these children go unattended because the adults are too busy fighting. It is sad that we are in this situation, but I think for us to do conscious parenting so that we are raising generation, everybody's right now is confused and is a little shocked at the way those born in the 2000s are. But these are children who are being raised by those born in the 90s and who are being, probably 90s and 80s. Let's just say 80s, maybe 80s and 70s is more accurate, but some 90s, early 90s have children who are born in the 2000s. And these children, a lot of them are highly stressed out children. Like they're literally strung out because of what they have witnessed and seen happen within their homes. Most of these children don't like being in the home, so they spend a lot of their time out on the streets. Some even run away from home because it's too much for them. We've seen a lot of street kids, right? We call them street kids. Those kids who are standing by traffic lights, who are begging and so on. Young kids, some of them are 12, 13. Has anyone ever wondered where those kids have come from and how they ended up on the streets? And we all know that the streets are no safe place for children. This is why it's so important, I think, for us to have these conversations so that we can become aware of what it is we're doing, because we're destroying our own community by ourselves with our own hands. It's not easy out there. I'll give it that. But unless we become conscious and unless we take into cognizance how we are showing up for our children, and not just because we are putting food on the table, we're putting clothes on their backs and we're sending them to school and we make sure that, they get the material things they need. That won't matter if emotionally and psychologically and spiritually these children are damaged. It won't matter. Because some of them won't finish school. Some of them will become young adults who are totally dysfunctional. Some of them underperform in school, not because they cannot do what's put in front of them, but because they are paralyzed by the trauma. Some of them fall into a depression that is undiagnosed. And then they end up hurting themselves more than just the pinching. Some of them start to do what we call cutting. Many of you ever heard of cutting? It is a sign of a traumatized soul. They literally will take a razor blade or a knife and they will cut. And many of them describe that when the blood's coming out, they feel a certain calmness and a sense of relief. They're trying to get rid of that pain that they cannot touch, that they feel so much in their bodies. It's not a mental thing, it's a body thing. It's in the cells. Remember that the body keeps a score. The mind can forget, but the body never forgets. That is what we call trauma. So very important to notice these things, very important to be aware, which is why a lot of the times we talk about leaving abusive relationships. Many people stay in such relationships and they say they're doing it for the kids. But the truth of the matter is you're not doing anything for those kids. Many of those kids, if they're fortunate, will need a lifetime of therapy to get over what they have experienced in their childhood. Those who are, and that's in the majority, those who are not privileged enough, because let me tell you the truth, to see a psychologist or a therapist for the Black community, that's a privilege. That's a privilege for those who have the means, those who have health insurance, those who are liquid. But for the vast majority of us, it's not even a thing. There are some people in communities who don't even know that such a thing exists that would require therapy. And so broken children lead to broken adults, and the cycle continues. Because the blueprint was laid down in childhood. I'm a woman. It's okay for a man who says he loves me to beat me up, to scream at me, to choke me, to kick me. As a guy, you'll do what you saw your father did, whether you like it or not. And because we are spirit first, having this human experience, many people know and feel horrible when they are partaking in these acts of violence. They just don't know how to stop it because it's now a programming in the subconscious. I've often said children learn not by what you say, but by what you do. Children emulate your behaviors. And as parents, you are the first teachers of your children. Before anyone else can imprint on them, you have already put your imprint on them. So those formative years, and people are like, a 2-year-old, what is a 2-year-old? This is the biggest mistake that we make, many of us, in believing that our children are not children until they start walking and talking and so on. Those are some highly intelligent beings. A baby will feel and sense everything that you are doing. In utero, when you are a pregnant woman who's going through abuse, there is what we call perinatal trauma. Your child feels and senses everything. Number one, when you are stressed or hurt or angry as a pregnant woman, your hormonal system changes. You're pumping cortisol, you're pumping adrenaline, you're pumping all sorts of hormones. And remember, your child is linked to you through the umbilical cord. You share that blood through the umbilical cord. So studies have shown that some of those stress hormones leak out and end up within the child system. So many of you, by the time you're having your child is already stressed. Your child is already experiencing the stress and the pain and the trauma that you experienced when you were carrying this child. You see how deep that goes, family? That is why our ancestors knew that pregnancy was a sacred time. Pregnancy was a sacred time. In ancient times, and I always speak pre-colonial because post-colonial everything went belly up. A lot of pregnant women were being pregnant by themselves anyway with no help because the men were over in the cities being forced to work in white people's factories. I'm talking pre-colonial times where homes were still homes. When a woman was pregnant, it was made sure that she was well taken care of, she was fed, and that she was not stressed. She was excused from all her duties in terms of cooking, carrying firewood, these horrible images you see of a woman with a bundle of firewood. She's pregnant here and she has another baby on her back. That stuff is all post-colonial nonsense. And usually the image is with a man walking in front of her. So she's carrying something on her head. She's carrying one child on one hand. She's pregnant here. She has another one on her back. And he's marching on with his hands in his pocket and a cigarette dangling from his lips. That is post-colonial BS. And it continues on to this day. So I just wanted us to really talk about this so that if you are in an abusive relationship and you have children, doesn't matter what age they are, best believe that your children are being negatively impacted by the abuse that you are putting up with. I'm debunking that whole nonsense of I'm staying in this for the kids, because let me tell you, those kids will have nothing to thank you for. I just want you to think seriously about that. Our job as parents is to protect and nurture our children. But a lot of the times we are the ones damaging our children and setting them up beautifully for the predators we have out there. Like I said, the streets aren't safe. But if home is not safe and a child feels safer on the street than at home, then you have a serious problem. We as parents are the ones who are setting our children. We're setting them up to fail. We're setting them up to be criminals. We're setting them up to be raped. We're setting them up to be stabbed. We're setting them up to be drug addicts. We are doing this by how we conduct ourselves within what is supposed to be a safe and nurturing environment. Imagine you are a child and the place that you call home is not safe. Imagine you are a child and you leave in the morning to catch a school bus to go to school, and you feel a sense of temporary relief that you got out of there. Imagine you are a child, school is over, you're getting onto your bus to go home, and now you're psyching yourself up for the disaster and the chaos that you're going to meet when you get home, and you get a knot in your stomach while you're on the bus. You get off the bus and you're dragging your feet to walk towards your house because you'd rather be anywhere but that house. And yet you know that this is it. I have nowhere to go. I have no one else. These are the parents that I have, and this is what happens in our house. For the men who drink excessively and become belligerent, do you know what that does to a child's psyche just to see a drunk father who becomes loose-handed and loose-lipped? I want you to imagine the sound of your voice to your child when you are inebriated and you're screaming, Fosak, and like it's a war zone for these little people. This is why so many kids, when they know dad is about to come home from work, they scuttle under the couches, they run to their rooms and shut the doors because they're scared of you. They're scared of you. Imagine the burden you put on your older children or your firstborn child who now feels like they have to mother or to father or to be the protector of their younger ones. Protecting them from who? From you, the parents. What are you doing to that child's life and their trajectory? Because now they have to make sure that these little ones are safe. And even if he or she is terrified themselves, they have to now grow up really quickly and tell them, it's going to be okay. Shh, we're going to be okay. And these ones are crying. And you're busy trying to tell them, no, don't cry, otherwise they'll hear us. Black Nation, we need to become cognizant. And we need to face these issues head on. That's why I'm doing this series. It's like I said, it's a very triggering series, but I think it's a series that is needed. We don't have the privilege, many of us, of psychologists and therapists. Mind you, if you are here and you're able to watch me, you're already privileged that you're able to see me and watch me. There are people who don't even have internet. There are people who don't even have a phone. Yes, I said it. There are people who don't have a phone where they can access social media to be able to access this knowledge or access this information. Because sometimes all it takes is for parents just hearing that, do you know that your action X is causing Y? And that may be enough to transform or to have somebody decide that I'm going to do things differently. And yes, you can heal your children. Because any change in behavior in you can gradually, and if it's consistent change, not that you change today and tomorrow, but come Friday, you're on the bottle again and you're back to square one. That messes up your children more. There's nothing children need more than consistency. So if you're yo-yoing up and down with this, you're changing, you're hurting them. You are hurting them. Let's make a conscious effort to change. We are grown, we are adults. We all know our blind spots. We all know where we need to change. And if you cannot be with the person that you're with, even though you have kids with them, for goodness sake, for the sake of these children, separate. When children are traumatized, it destroys the prefrontal cortex of the brain. The prefrontal lobe of the brain gets destroyed. That is the part that is responsible for cognitive abilities and for critical thinking. You're basically making your children dumb because they cannot think critically. They cannot focus. Trauma is like an earthquake to a child. Imagine, if you will, an earthquake that hits a certain place and causes cracks in the ground or in the tarmac. If you think of, say, a tarred road, right? Asphalt, and all those cracks. That road is still there. But those cracks, they're permanent for the most part. So I really, parents, I urge you, you change the trajectory of your child's lives. You curtail their destinies as spirit beings who came into this incarnation to have this human experience, but also to fulfill a purpose. You can delay that purpose, or you can totally derail them from that purpose. And that is a huge spiritual debt that you will have to answer for as the steward of said spirit in human form. Kuzwakele, liyankutla akiri? You are hearing me, Abi? Okay. Black Nation, I love you. Must Hussein.